All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, and this is going to be the top 10 worst bodybuilding injuries of all time. Now, I want to start off the video with an honorable mention here, and this is going to be of the powerlifter Scott Mendelson, because he's not technically a bodybuilder, so he can't be in this top 10, but his injury was probably one of the most infamous injuries in the fitness world, and that was when he tore his pec back in 2013 at the SPF March Madness powerlifting meet, where he tore his pec while attempting a 716.5 pound bench press. You can actually see the pec tear during the lift there, but more specifically, this infamous photo of the bruising that was a result of the tear is probably one of the most infamous pictures of an injury in this whole industry. Now, coming in at number 10, you have Dorian Yates' infamous bicep tear. Now, this photo that you're looking at here is another very infamous photo of a bodybuilding injury. And Dorian Yates tore his bicep back in 1994. So Dorian Yates is coming in at number 10 on this list because even though he tore his bicep back in 94, he would still go on to win several more Mr. Olympias with the aftermath of that injury. As you can see in some of these after photos, you can see a clear difference in the shortness of the head of that right bicep there. So even though this was a brutal looking injury when the bruising occurred, he was still able to be successful in bodybuilding despite that injury, so that makes it not as severe as some of the other injuries that we have on this list. Now, coming in at number 9 on this list, we have the Callum Von Moger bicep tear. Now, Callum Von Moger is a social media superstar and was currently training for the Classic Physique division and competing in NPC Classic Physique, trying to get his pro card and then one day compete at the Olympia in Classic Physique. But the first major setback he would have to his Classic Physique career would be this bicep tear when he was attempting to curl 405 pounds on the bar with Chris Bumstead. Now, fortunately for Chris Bumstead, he would not tear his bicep and he would go on to still place second at the 2018 Classic Physique Olympia, but Callum Von Moger was not so lucky. As you will see later on this list, this would not be the last injury that would majorly impact Callum Von Moger's bodybuilding career, and that's why this injury comes in at number 9. Now, coming in the number 8 spot, you have another bicep tear, and that was the slight bicep tear of Dexter Jackson, which was clearly noticeable at the 2018 Arnold Classic Australia. So this is one of the more recent injuries on this list and generated a lot of discussion in 2018 about what happened to Dexter Jackson's bicep, because you could clearly see there was something very, very off about that left bicep when he competed at the Arnold Classic, and everybody noticed it. And many people speculated that's why he, in fact, did not win the Arnold Classic Australia, was because of that bicep problem that he had. And it was only after the fact that he actually came out and said, yes, I had a slight tear of that bicep, but everything's okay now. And because this didn't appear to be a career-halting injury, that's why it's only number 8 on this list. Now, coming in the number 7 spot, we have yet another bicep tear. Are you guys starting to notice a theme here yet? Now, this bicep tear was a tear suffered by the 4-time Mr. Olympia champ, Jay Cutler, during his prep for the 2011 Mr. Olympia. Now, Jay said this bicep injury was suffered at just 3 weeks prior to the Olympia during a photo shoot in 2011, and then he had his bicep repair surgery in 2012, and he would make his comeback to the 2013 Olympia. And this comes in at number 7 on the list because a lot of people felt that the imbalance in the arms of Jay Cutler was one of the reasons why he lost that 2011 Mr. Olympia, which would effectively become the end of his Olympia winning career, because when he came back in 2013, I believe he placed 6th. So this particular bicep tear became a pretty career-damaging injury, unlike some of the other bicep tears on this list, so that's why I have it ranking higher than those bicep tears. Now, coming in at number 6, we've got to throw it back to 1977 and talk about Franco Columbu, who had just won the Mr. Olympia in 1976 and went on to compete in the World's Strongest Man competition in 1977. So Franco would severely injure his leg during an event called the fridge carry, where you put a fridge on your back and essentially carried it for 40 yards while racing your opponents to see who can carry it the fastest. And just 3 seconds into this, Franco stumbled and fell to the ground with the fridge, badly injuring his leg. And at just 24 years old at the time, this would drastically alter Franco's bodybuilding career and put him out of commission for over 3 years until he would come back and compete and win the 1981 Mr. Olympia competition. Now, despite the severity of this injury, it only ranks at number 6 because even though it set Franco back, he was still able to make a major comeback from this injury in the way of winning the Olympia again, which many people he expected he would never do. But in the end, his physique was never the same after this injury. Now, coming in the number 5 spot, you have Phil Heath and his umbilical hernia. Now, essentially, a hernia is a tear in the abdominal wall where the intestines begin to try to push through that tear and create a really undesirable appearance to that lower abdominal area. Now, the reason this injury comes in number 5, even though this wasn't a dramatic event that caused this injury, this is something that became a major bump in the road for Phil Heath, and many people would even say this is one of the primary reasons why Phil Heath was not able to defend his title in 2018, because they felt his midsection was not fully recovered from this injury, and the distension in his midsection is mostly blamed on the aftermath of this injury. And we still have yet to see if Phil Heath is going to be able to make a full comeback from this injury and possibly come back and take his Olympia title back. And if he's not able to do that, I think this injury might move up a couple places on this list as being the injury that put an end to Phil Heath's career. But hopefully that is not the case and Phil Heath is able to come back and take that title. Now, coming in the number 4 spot, we have the infamous car accident of 1994 concerning Flex Wheeler, who was the Olympia runner-up at the previous year's Mr. Olympia. Now, this car accident reportedly happened at 170 miles per hour right before the 1994 Mr. Olympia. Now, this is a car accident that reportedly would have killed most people and ended up forcing Flex Wheeler to withdraw from the 1994 Mr. Olympia. Now, many people felt that Flex Wheeler was going to win the 1994 Mr. Olympia. Had he not suffered this car accident, many people think he would have won that 1994 Mr. Olympia. But the result of this accident prevented him from competing there. And many people think this accident is specifically the reason why Flex Wheeler never won a Mr. Olympia title. Now, the impressive thing about this was Flex Wheeler was able to make a comeback from this accident and continue to compete for over half a decade and do very, very well in those competitions. Now, coming in the number 3 spot on this list, we have Callum Von Moger yet again, probably the unluckiest bodybuilder on this list. Now, Callum Von Moger in 2018 suffered another major injury to his legs in a freak accident while rappelling off of a cliff, where he badly tore his patella tendon. Now, at this point in time, Callum was still trying to recover from that bicep injury he had earlier on in that year. But this particular injury would be the injury that would bring Callum Von Moger's bodybuilding career to a grinding halt and really make him step away from the sport for a long period of time. Trying to recover from that leg injury, he lost a lot of size in his upper body as well, and basically it appears like he cycled off of everything. Now, currently he is in the comeback phase of trying to rebuild his physique, but essentially this leg injury made him have to start from scratch. So we still don't know if he's going to be able to actually come back from this injury, but hopefully he will be able to do so, and we will see Callum back on a bodybuilding stage. But probably one of the most devastating injuries that we've seen so far on this list for a young, promising bodybuilder. Now, the number 2 spot on this list should be no surprise to any bodybuilding fan, and coming in at number 2, you have Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman with multiple back injuries, countless back surgeries, and the current version of Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia that we see today, is a Ronnie Coleman that can barely walk. Now, Ronnie Coleman is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, winning more Olympias than anybody else other than Lee Haney, and he really put his body on the line to be able to achieve what he did end up achieving in bodybuilding, but that did not come without a cost, and he probably paid one of the greatest prices in terms of his overall physical health compared to any of the bodybuilders on this list. Now, over the past couple years, we've been watching Ronnie Coleman go through these major invasive surgeries for these back issues that he has as a result of all that heavy, crazy training that he did. And as of right now, it appears that Ronnie Coleman cannot walk without assistance, but hopefully we will see Ronnie Coleman be able to make a full recovery in terms of regaining his ability to walk and one day walk again. Now, coming in the number 1 spot on this list is probably the most brutal bodybuilding injury of all time, and that was the injury of J.P. Fuchs while he was squatting 675 pounds for a photo shoot. Now, JP went down during this squat with the weight still on his back, and there's famous photos of it that you're looking at here, and he basically annihilated both of his legs during this squat. On his right leg, his patella tendon completely snapped, and on his left leg, he tore all 4 quadricep muscles in his leg. And this injury essentially completely ended JP Fuchs' bodybuilding career, and the photos of this injury are probably the most brutal photos of any bodybuilding injury that we've ever seen. And the fact that this was all captured on camera makes it even more amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to this channel to see more videos just like this if you have not already. Thank you guys for watching the video, and please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.